We begin our show with Giannis making his long-awaited return after his 15-game absence. He was out with that calf injury. It's the second one of the season. He was hosting the Boston Celtics last night. So here with Ramona Shelburne, Tim McMahon. Let's get straight to the action here. Giannis imposing his will early here, Tim.
Yeah, that looks like Giannis just getting right to the rim whenever he wants.
Getting to the rim exactly when you need him. There he is.
1-on-3.
He subbed out, though, after 6 minutes in the first here. And then early in the second, Giannis still on the bench. This is when the Celtics start to make their run. Sam Hauser pokes it away. Pritchard picks it up. Oh.
Not eligible for the award, but best sixth man in the league.
Celtics up by 12. And then next possession, Nikola Vucevic finds Hauser.
It's been a nice fit there, Vucevic.
Drains the three. The Celtics, they lead by 15. So off to the third we go. Bucks down 14. A little big-to-big action here. Miles Turner finds Giannis, who stuffs it this time over 1, 2, 3. Count them. Yeah, that's 4 Celtics defenders. Still, though, it's a big lead for the Celtics. Giannis once again spins his way inside. He had 19 points, 11 rebounds. But here, you see the Celtics' depth on display. Derek White takes it the other way, gives it back here to Gonzalez. Watch him. Finds him for the nice little backdoor cut. Celtics go on to win this one 108-81. Here's Giannis on how he felt in his return.
I'll be honest with you. I try as much as I can when I do this stuff to answer as honest as I can. Right now, I'm just trying to get back in the rhythm, right? Being able to not play for 6 weeks, and the second time that I've actually played against contact was today. And I feel like the more I'm in shape, the more I have my wind under me, the more I can be able to help my team, and not just be a better basketball player, just be more vocal, right? The more you're trying to figure out yourself and your spots and try to figure out how you play with your teammates, the more you kind of cave into yourself.
Welcoming in our reporter who covers the Bucks for us, Jamal Collier. Jamal, you're in the Bulls arena right now, but you were in Milwaukee last night. What was the feeling around Giannis and his return here?
Well, Malika, excitement for the Bucks to have him back on the court.
Sure.
The first time since the trade deadline. He's still in Milwaukee, but also optimism. I mean, this was coming off a stretch where the Bucks had one of their best stretches of the season. They had won 8 of 11 at some point in February. Doc Rivers said before the game that, they felt like they had turned a corner and found out how to play without Giannis. And this is a team that still is trying to chase a play-in spot in the Eastern Conference, and they're excited to get Giannis back into that mix. Giannis wasn't really ready to get into all that, as you heard after the game. He was just excited to be back on the floor after so much missed time with injuries. He's not used to that. He was kind of almost reckoning with his own basketball mortality. He's a guy who you tell him 4 weeks, right? He's going to be out. He's back in 2 weeks. And he thought it was going to be the same with this calf injury. And that's just not been the case. It's continued to recur and really robbed him of 29 games, the most missed time he's had at any point at his career for a season. So he was happy to be back on the floor, wasn't worried about how this Bucks season was going to end, but just to get back, get into rhythm, and to finally be able to play basketball again.
Yeah, it was sort of an interesting contrast, though, Jamal. You were there listening to these players. I wasn't. But to hear Giannis say that he didn't really want to go down that road, he wanted to just focus on the fact that he was back. But then you have someone like Bobby Portis, his teammate, saying that after years of competing for a championship, to just be trying to talk about competing for a play-in, he said it felt kind of off to him. And that seems to be the story of what's happening here in Milwaukee. Jamal, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much for the time. Years ago today, 12 years ago, his career high. So why not dust off a little top of the top? This is top LeBron moments in Miami, starting with the
there you go. I like that.
Right? 6 for 6.
Come on.
From behind the backboard.
That's a ridiculous shot. That's like a horse shot. Nobody makes that.
And yet, here is LeBron. By the way, the Hornets, now they're on the up and up, so they get to be on the other side of some of these highlights. Now, jumping over John Lucas for the alley-oop from D-Wade. Wow. Look out below.
Oh, look how high his head is.
I just always feel bad for Lucas here.
He didn't even bend his head.
There's a couple more that you might feel bad for who's on the other side. This poster on Paul Millsap.
Oh.
He walked through his chest.
Yep.
And then, how about some passes here? We got the no-look over-the-head dime.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was in 2011.
The
Eric Dampier?
The best Eric Dampier Heat highlight for sure.
All right, how about number 2? We got a huge poster here on Ben McLemore.
That's pretty good positioning defensively.
Listen,
You know what?
He's outside the
can't
circle.
cut it. Yeah.
We'll do that
That
every
just
once in
means
a
you're a
while.
hurdle.
All right, at number 1, this is the one ultimately.
Look, Mike
Look
Malone
at
there.
young Michael Malone. 2013 finals. You know where I'm going with this one.
Oh, yeah.
Just denying Thiago's splitter at the rim.
Now.
Thiago still asked about this.
Yeah, it's because it's a defining highlight. He just so happened to be on the other side of it. Now, LeBron obviously not done getting buckets, right? And the Lakers tonight, I'm not sure if we're going to get one of those blocks, but we could. They face the Pelicans. LeBron is now just 11 made field goals away from passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most made shots in NBA history. So what could we be in store? Maybe another milestone for LeBron tonight. We're joined now by our senior NBA reporter, Dave McMenamin. He will be in Crypto.com Arena for this one. Dave, LeBron has cornered the market on milestones, but in his 8th season as a Laker, we just ran back some of the top highlights with him with the Miami Heat. What is his defining place in Lakers history here?
I think it's something worthy of discussion, Malika, because we're talking about him potentially passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in all-time field goals made. That's a cumulative statistic from his 23-year career. But just look at his time as a Laker. He's 2nd in three-pointers, 2nd in triple-doubles, 5th in assists, 8th in defensive rebounds, 10th in points, 4th in assists per game, 4th in points per game, and 2nd in assists per game, just as a Laker. So we're talking about him in the 4th chapter of his career, theoretically his swan song that could be ending after this season. We'll see. And you can stack up his accomplishments as a Laker, and you throw in that Finals MVP, you throw in the championship, among the greats of perhaps the greatest franchise the NBA has. I don't think his legacy with the Lakers is looked at in that light very often, and it's worth at least considering that he's done a lot of work, a lot of good work, the time he's been with the Lakers.
Not to mention contribute a championship to this franchise, right? I think because it was in the bubble in a little bit of a different circumstance, maybe that gets looked at through a different prism. But the most recent championship, it's got LeBron's fingerprints all over it for the Los Angeles Lakers. These current Lakers, though, they're in the middle of this stretch where they have 7 of their next 8 games at home. They're trying to put some momentum together here, Dave. And there's a video going around from Saturday's win over the Warriors. It shows this interaction between Luka Doncic and JJ Redick. A lot of people have questions about it. We're seeing it right here. Can you just describe the relationship between these two?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I checked into this with people around the league and within the team, and I'll just tell you my reporting. A league source said when he saw the video, LA is different. The smallest thing becomes the biggest thing. A source close to Luka told me that him and JJ have a strong, close relationship that dates back nearly a decade, and they're both fiercely competitive, and they push one another. A team source said, find me a star in the NBA that isn't frustrated amidst a 3-game losing streak. And so it's much ado about nothing, but hey, we know the internet likes to have their fun. In this case, if you have been around an NBA basketball team full of people who live for competition, sometimes it gets a little messy when they're trying to go towards a common goal.
Even that reporting, I don't think will stop the keyboard warriors here, Dave. Thank you so very much for your time, for your insight. The Pelicans and the Lakers face off tonight. NBA veteran Terry Rozier, former NBA player and coach Damon Jones, and more than 30 others. They appeared in a New York City courthouse today for their status conference hearings for their involvement in illegal sports betting. Now, they were charged in October of 2025. They both pleaded not guilty in December of last year. And Ramona, you've covered this case now for months, and I think it's important here, right? There are 2 different charges for Terry Rozier and for Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups is scheduled to have his hearing tomorrow. What are those different charges?
So the hearing today is about the gambling case. This is about providing non-public information to sports bettors who then place bets on games. Okay, so this is or taking yourself out of a game that somebody had a bet on. The hearing tomorrow is about the rigged poker games, and that is the one where Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones are alleged to have been quote-unquote face cards as part of the cheating team, where they were using X-ray glasses and they had rigged shuffling machines and Chauncey was obviously a famous player, so the people would like to play alongside of him, and that's what that case is.
Okay, so two different charges, two different cases that we're looking at here. And this morning you had a piece up on ESPN.com where you reported in detail Chauncey Billups' case here. What do we know about the case against the former head coach?
Well, a lot of what's happened between November, the last appearance, and now is that the defense attorneys have now had 3 months to go through all of the evidence and all the discovery in this case. Prosecutors said it was a terabyte of data that they had to go through.
Wow.
And so back in November, any discussion that anybody would have with prosecutors about whether they would cooperate or not cooperate, how they were going to defend their clients, you weren't worth having a discussion at that point because you didn't even know what they had, what the discovery was in this case. So now people have had time to sit with it. There's also 31 defendants in a courtroom. Usually you break up a case into smaller groups. And at that point, it was not appropriate to divide that up. But I think that's what will probably happen over the next couple of days, is that people will try to separate into different groups. They'll try to separate into different jurisdictions. All this right now is in New York, although the games that Chauncey was alleged to have played in were in Las Vegas. And so I think there's going to be a lot of procedural stuff here. The case against Chauncey, though, really comes down to, and what we're all trying to understand is, how did he become involved in this? You know, how, and there's a couple central figures in this, one of which is Damon Jones, who, as we wrote about in the piece, you know, he's a very close friend of Damon Jones. They lived together during COVID for a couple of months at Chauncey's house in Colorado. Damon Jones is named in both of these indictments. Another man is Eric Ernest, who served 12 years in prison on a drug charge. He's the guy who was at the poker game, and he's the one who Chauncey allegedly called as part of the gambling case. And so you're kind of wondering how he became involved in this. And now, presumably, his attorneys have more of an idea of what the government may think that evidence is.
Okay, so it sounds like the central question here that we are looking to have answered is, how did Chauncey Billups become involved? But this sounds incredibly complicated, a terabyte of data that everyone
and
is
the trial
through.
Not expected to start at September until the earliest.
Okay, so there is a lot to be going through here. Certainly, we will update everyone as this investigation is ongoing, and we will have more tomorrow on NBA Today.